Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Football.
We're flying without a pilot here. The old Dexter taking we got a Monday night game. The Dexter's going to take a couple days off, and he said, "Here, you guys fly this plane. Don't crash it." On Purple Daily today, presented by Quick Trip.
And I'm trusting you, so
I don't even trust myself. So
okay, well, that could be bad news.
If the screen goes dark, if the audio cuts out, then we apologize in advance here. But this is Purple Daily, daily Vikings entertainment, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. And today we have a couple things for you. We have a little bit more reckless speculation. It is a reckless speculation Thursday here. Okay?
Reckless speculation
across Score North. And we have a state of the offense update presented by our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company, which was just named one of the 10 best employers in Minnesota by Forbes. So not only a great place to work, according to Forbes here, but also a great place to partner with if you run a business and you're looking for just better frontline protection, a better offensive line, so to speak, for your business. Federated comes in with face-to-face, eye-to-eye relationships and value-added customer service going back to 1904. Go to federatedinsurance.com to find out more about how they can help elevate and protect your business. So let's waste no time here getting into the reckless speculation, Judd, because Bill Barnwell from ESPN.com, he's kind of their analytics guy, but he loves to speculate recklessly.
He's
good at it.
Speculation.
He is. He understands the lifestyle, right? So again, this is a safe space here, and I will try not to attack anyone like I did when Judd tried to trade Christian Darrisaw a couple days ago, which is still making the rounds on the internet.
Did not try to trade him. I merely suggested that his name could be coming up in conversations.
Now it's funny because people are now taking that clip around the internet and they're like lumping all of us in together. These guys want to trade. No, wait a second. We all actually said we wouldn't trade him. Judd was the one that pushed the idea.
Yes,
so,
and and there is occasionally, like one in every 10, the person actually listened to the episode. So that person will try to explain to the people on Twitter who are outraged, no, they're just talking about this as a possibility because the team needs draft capital so badly. But then it immediately gravitates back towards no, Zolgad's an idiot. I actually saw for the first time in, probably 16 years, 15 years, I actually saw he's a Packer fan brought up.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
He's trying to
the Packers 20 years ago.
He's trying to sabotage the Vikings. He's a Packer fan. God, it'd been so long. Just a greatest hits moment right there.
It is. So would you do these trades from Bill Barnwell? He just put together a bunch of trades that might make sense here and exactly what those trades would be. So, and before I get to these, I just want to tell for everyone who's sick of the should the Vikings make a bunch of trades before the deadline discussion, we're going to hit you also with a bonus Purple Daily episode today. 2 Purple Daily episodes. Reckless trade speculation and state of the offense. And then we're going to force ourselves in a bonus episode to carve a path to 9 wins. I know this is going to pain you especially because I think it's the worst possible thing that you would prefer to see happen. Oh,
God, yeah, this would be...
But we
absolute
will
purple Armageddon.
In a bonus episode, we will look at the schedule and we will carve a path to 9 wins and see what that looks like.
As average as you could possibly be. All right.
Yes. Would you do these trades? Let's start with this one. I think the first one, I think it's kind of a no-brainer, but Jordan Hicks has been one of the best linebackers, inside linebackers in the NFL so far this year. Mm-hmm. And so the trade idea here is a veteran injury replacement for Buffalo. The Bills would trade for Jordan Hicks, and the Vikings would get a 2024 fifth-round draft pick. Here's the write-up. Losing cornerback Tre'Davious White and linebacker Matt Milano to season-ending injuries in back-to-back games could sink the Bills, who can't possibly hope to replace either star with the players available at this trade deadline, unless the Broncos are willing to trade Patrick Surtain and the Bills are willing to send multiple first-round picks it would take to get that deal completed. Milano is even more irreplaceable, especially given that the Bills were already starting over next to him at linebacker after losing Tremaine Edmonds in free agency. So it goes on to say essentially that Jordan Hicks could be that sort of, November, December, January stopgap, a good veteran inside linebacker to keep that Bills defense formidable The Vikings would then be left with Ivan Pace, Brian Asamoah, and Troy Dye. But they sometimes don't even use more than one linebacker. Sometimes they don't use any linebackers with this defense. So
Josh Metellus is a pseudo linebacker.
Would you do this trade?
Yes, in a heartbeat. Yeah, absolutely. I'm cashing in on a veteran player who is not going to be here much longer. I'm giving that player a chance to win a Super Bowl. I'm getting a 5th round pick back. Yes, absolutely. I don't think that's like that is the least I would expect type of trade. Like at the very least, I would probably do that trade if I beat San Francisco. Because I need draft picks back. And it's not so like I think the immediate reaction, I think where it's somewhat confusing is I think part of the problem is people think, well, it's a 5th round pick. Who cares? It's a 5th round pick. No, it's how many draft picks do you have to work with to move around?
Yes.
So it's not the 5th round pick from Buffalo, which, very well could be a late 5th round pick. It's the ability to have picks in which I can play with to then move around and make trades and move up possibly. And if I have a 5th round pick to throw into a trade, that is only going to help me. So it goes beyond just, well, that's a lousy trade. Hicks has been good and it's a 5th round pick. Think of it as a chip. It's a chip that can help you combine it with more chips to move around and strategize on what I'm going to do.
And what I say, a 5th round pick. I'm just going back here. Yeah, a 5th round pick. A 5th round pick isn't going to be a chip that you would necessarily leverage to go to the top 5 and get your franchise quarterback. I mean, maybe you would like throw it in. But if you're looking to move up on day 2, maybe you're looking to get higher up in the 2nd round, or maybe you're looking to package a couple picks to get from the 3rd round to the 2nd round. You would be using 4th and 5th round picks to do that, right?
Important to keep in mind too that the quarterback discussion is easily the sexiest one, and I totally get that, and I live the lifestyle to celebrate that. Okay, but and I brought this up a couple days ago in talking about the in the Darisaw scenario that was thrown out, but this team has a lot of needs. Like this team. Number one, like it or not, the 2022 draft still looks pretty damn bad. Second of all, for instance, okay, I'm sure we're going to talk about a trade involving him, but if you're not going to re-sign Danielle Hunter, it makes sense to trade him. Marcus Davenport is almost certainly not coming back because if you can't stay healthy, you don't get re-signed. DJ Wanham is a pending free agent who I think is a backup. So now we're talking about quarterback. We're talking about an outside linebacker or plural linebackers who can rush. We're talking about nose tackle. So I understand that the ground floor of this discussion is always going to be how do you find Cousins' replacement? But it actually goes deeper than that. You have a lot of areas in which you have need, and in a lot of cases, it's premium position players. So like it's not just like, okay, how do I get the draft pick to take a quarterback? Yeah, that's the starting point. The second part is you have a lot of other positions at which you just can't find guys. So like if you get that 5th round pick, and to your point, now you can move up in the 2nd round. That's not for a quarterback. That might be for another important position.
Edge rusher or something else, right? Okay, this is the juiciest one. Okay,
Reckless speculation.
Lions go all in for a star defender. The Lions would trade for Danielle Hunter, and they would be getting, so here's the trade. Lions get Danielle Hunter and a 2024 5th round pick.
Okay.
The Vikings would get a 2024 2nd round pick. Injured edge rusher James Houston, who flashed last year, interestingly, as a young edge rusher, I think in his 2nd year here. And then a 2025 3rd round pick, conditional. So here's the write-up. The Lions should go for it all, right? At 4-1 at the time of this write-up, they're well ahead of the NFC North and just a game back of the 49ers and Eagles at the top of the conference. But aren't they tied right now? Aren't they all? They're all one-loss teams right now. So things have changed even for the better in the last week. Aiden Hutchinson is playing like a defensive player of the year contender, but no other Lions defender has more than 2 sacks at the time of this write-up. Houston, the injured edge rusher that the Vikings would get here, who surprisingly had 8 sacks as a rookie last year, is out indefinitely after fracturing his right ankle in week 2. Veteran Romeo Aquara has not been the same since tearing his Achilles several years ago, and Charles Harris is a solid player, but Detroit could dream of adding a second star across from Hutchinson on the edge. Danielle is probably the best player with a realistic chance of being moved by this deadline. The 28-year-old standout has 6 sacks. Now he has 8. A league-high 9 tackles for a loss through 5 games this season. And he's on a 1-year, $17 million contract after a holdout this summer. So would you trade Danielle Hunter and a 2024 5th-round pick for what would probably be a later 2nd-round pick here, James Houston, who I'll tell you more about, and a 2025 conditional 3rd-round pick? It would probably be tied to like a sack total or something.
I would like to do something special here. I would like to take that bit of reckless speculation and add to it with a story that I saw this morning.
Reckless speculation.
Oh, wow.
Tweet put out this morning. 2023 NFL trade deadline, why Danielle Hunter should be a hot commodity. Source, the33rdteam.com.
Ooh,
Author.
This is juicy because these guys are all...
Author, Rick Spielman. Rick Spielman!
Speculation.
Here's the answer to your question. All right. If you need an edge rusher, Danielle Hunter right now is easily the best thing available to you. So would I do that trade with Detroit? That trade is only a starting point for me. I'm leveraging that. I'm leveraging it into, at the very least, a conditional 1st-round pick from somebody. I'm not taking a 2nd-round pick now. I am going to be, and look, a 2nd-round pick is not an awful return. But for instance, let's just say the Detroit Lions or another team that needs an edge rusher that's a contender, makes the playoffs, makes the NFC or AFC conference championship game. Well, I'm not going to walk away with your 2nd-round pick. That turns into a conditional 1st. Am I actively this morning thinking and looking to move Danielle Hunter, who is tied with TJ Watt for the NFL lead in sacks with 8? Abso-freaking-lutely. Do I find it interesting that the former Viking GM himself is saying, the man who drafted Danielle Hunter is saying, oh yeah, I'm coming in hot here. Absolutely.
Wow.
So I would say, Mr. Barnwell, here's what I think of your idea. I think it's only grown hotter in the conversations. And I actually think what you just submitted as an idea, now redo it, because I think I can get more than what you were saying a week ago.
Speculation.
So interesting here. Yeah, his value has gone up in the last week since this article was written. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But James Houston's a really interesting piece here. You're thinking about the draft picks, and I get it. Like, if you can get a 1st-round pick for Danielle Hunter, you should absolutely do that. But James Houston's a really interesting story here. So he, like you say, he fractured his ankle. Last year, he was a 6th-round pick out of Jackson State. Jackson State ring a bell? It's a Deion Sanders guy.
Mm-hmm.
So you might think, he's a 6th-round pick out of Jackson State. I don't know. He had offers coming out of high school from Wisconsin, Auburn, Arkansas, Florida. I think I'm right on this. Did he eschew Florida?
Yeah, so he was a Deion guy.
Go to
a few guys did this.
Jackson State.
A few guys did
portal?
this. They passed up really good football schools because Deion convinced them to, which is credit to Deion.
And this is an article from SI.com here. Falcons legend Deion Sanders compares Jackson State's James Houston IV to NFL rising star Micah Parsons. He moved him to edge at Jackson State, changed his career essentially.
Okay.
And last year he winds up with only 140 snaps in his rookie season, 17 pressures, 8 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, 10 stop tackles. He had a pass rush grade of 88.2 according to Pro Football Focus. Wow. A super interesting prospect. If the Lions were like, God, he's not going to help us this year, we can do this thing. Let's go get Danielle Hunter. So a 2nd-round pick and a really good edge rushing prospect who's under team control for, I think, 2 more seasons after this is a really interesting proposition. But I'm kind of with you in that this is kind of where, like, this is the bottom, a 2nd-round pick, a late 2nd-round pick, and a good player would be kind of like the baseline for my negotiations while I try to call Jacksonville and some other teams, right?
And I guess my question is this. My first preference is I love this potential because I want to create a bidding war. I don't want it to be like one team. I'd love it to be like 3 teams, okay? If I can, my second preference is I would like to not trade him in the division in case he signs an extension. I really don't want to have to face him twice. I know some people care about that, some don't. But my feeling is this. If I can find an AFC team that wants him and is willing to offer me what I want, basically, let's say it's the same package as Detroit. Let's say it's better. I'd love that. I'd love to place Danielle in a conference in which I don't play it a ton. I'd really like to get him out of the division if possible. I think I'd be much more I'd be more okay with him like if he went to, I don't know, the Saints or something. I face them, but not as much.
I feel you.
But here's where I think the conversation in the past week has taken a turn is I really do think if you're talking about a contender, that it has to be a conditional first round pick. Because if the conditions are you make the conference championship game, for instance, that's almost a second round pick.
Yeah.
But I'm still in the first round. And again, with my own pick, I can play with that more. So in my opinion. So that's the thing is I'm not saying it's a first round pick on the day the trade is made. It's probably a second round pick. I'm saying it's conditional that if this guy helps you get to where you think that you have a legitimate shot to go, I want to be compensated properly for his production.
Yeah. Curious to hear what Purple Daily listeners and viewers think in that comment section, YouTube comment section, the feedback tab, Score North app. Would you do a Danielle Hunter trade? Like, I think we'd all probably do the Jordan Hicks trade. I mean, obviously he's helping you. He's been a catalyst on that defense, but like these trades you'd kind of be waving the white flag a little bit. You could still win games without Jordan Hicks the rest of the season, but the Danielle Hunter trade, what would you need to trade Danielle Hunter, Vikings fans? That's kind of the question here. So, all right. State of the offense time here, Judley. Are you ready?
Let's
for
do
4
it.
key categories. Let's start with the overall snapshot here of this offense. We do this every Thursday, a state of the offense. And it's been, obviously now we're getting some sample size here. We're 6 games into the season, so these categories they're not going to like jump 10 spots in these categories anymore. So where does the Vikings offense rank overall? Points per game, 17th. Yards per play, 6th. So they're moving the ball. They can't cash in the red zone. You know, this has been a story the whole season.
Yep.
Expected points added. Now we're getting into the analytics here. 18th best offense. DVOA, 15th best offense.
Oh.
It is kind of concerning that this is the best the Vikings offensive line has been. Kirk Cousins is, I don't think we've seen a ton of signs of like him going over an age cliff. I know they were without Justin Jefferson for a game, and they will be now for a few games, but it's concerning that second year of this offense, mostly the same crew, Jordan Addison in the mix. Moving off Dalvin Cook was the right decision, but empowering Alex Madison the way that they have hasn't had a positive effect. But they're basically a below average analytical and scoring offense through the first 6 games, which is a red flag to me.
Yeah, it's a massive disappointment. I don't think it's exactly hard to figure out why. To your point, one, the red zone efficiency it's not what it should be, especially with some of the red zone pieces, i.e. TJ Hockinson, that exist. The other thing is, if you combine inefficiency in the red zone too frequently with turnovers, it's football death. It's absolute football death. Like you think about the amount of times, and we have seen teams, in fact, some Brad Childress teams, Phil, that we covered that could move the ball between the 20s like nobody's business. 20 to 20, let's go. 19 on in, whoa.
Yeah.
And so it sort of feels like that. I would like to know, like, it's funny because a lot of fans that I see on Twitter, or X, are still convinced that the offensive line sucks. Like, it's like, well, you could see by the run game. I don't care what the metrics say, but it's simply not the truth. And so, like, I would love to know what is slowing the run game down. Like, is it Madison, the refusal to try to use 2 guys? Is it something else that we're not picking up on? Like, it doesn't make sense that the offensive line is actually by the metrics doing a good job, a solid job, and that there's no payoff for it.
Yeah. It also, I will say this, when you take a closer look at like the Dolphins, the 49ers, the Lions offense too, and some of the ways that both in the running game and the passing game, they unlock big chunk plays. There's just so much more creativity and deception and little things here and there that the Vikings aren't doing. So I think some of it might be just, it's a much more vanilla offensive scheme and playbook, at least whatever they have open right now, than we thought it was a year ago. And I think Alex Madison, their offensive line wasn't great last year. It was better run blocking than it was pass protection. But for him to have gone basically 2 full seasons without a 20-yard run, over 160 carries, 170 carries, God, that says more about him, right? And we talk about red zone failure. It hurts the Vikings that they don't have a running back. What do you need in the red zone's crowded? The red zone is bogged down, right? There's more bodies in a smaller space.
You need to loosen it up.
You either need to loosen it up with some deception and motion, or you need a running back that can break a tackle, get some yards after contact, or a quarterback that can just use his legs and make something happen. They don't really have those things. And then, of course, you need receivers and a tight end that don't drop passes or turn it over on the goal line, which has happened 4 times this year.
I would like to know, too, like when it comes to what we perceive to be, certainly eye test wise, a lack of creativity that we expected and that clearly other teams use. Kevin O'Connell, is this a doesn't totally trust Kirk thing? Doesn't totally trust the personnel overall thing? Like, what would be... You would think because of the issues with the run game that there would be more deception to try and create things, and there's really not. Like we did see a play on Sunday where they motioned Hockinson and brought him into the backfield, and then used him essentially as a fullback to lead block. I think it was on a outside zone play. But overall, it feels like there would be more reason to be creative to try and work on things, and we really haven't seen that.
Yeah, I mean, I said it sort of tongue-in-cheek a couple days ago that we're sitting here and we're asking for creativity and we need an artist to paint Mona Lisa or whatever it is, and you've got a quarterback that's like a bucket of brown paint. Like if you rank quarterbacks based on, okay, like if this was to use another food analogy, right? If this was a cooking show, a contest, and all right, everyone's going to get a certain amount of ingredients. Every head coach, every chef is going to get like a list of ingredients that's different from everybody else. And one chef, maybe Miami's chef gets filet mignon and they get, whatever, like they get broccolini that's well seasoned and all this other stuff, right? And like, does Kevin O'Connell look at his ingredients at quarterback and at running back? And he's looking at Shanahan and he's looking at his guy, Mike McDaniel over in Miami and saying, man, be nice if I had some more speed on the edge. Be nice if I had pieces that I could use, in 23 personnel, 21 personnel, like the Niners do.
But you know what this is like on Top Chef? The quick fire challenge. Quick fire challenge, man. You gotta make it up as you go along. And the thing that I don't. So here's one thing that I really believe, and it's probably unquantifiable, that we've seen less of. And we talked about this. I talked about this a lot going into 2022, which is, Kirk is best when he has a puppeteer coach. So like when Kirk is a puppet and then I am showing Kirk what I need done. So like, I agree with your point. If you leave it up to Kirk, you're probably screwed. Like he's going to make a few plays, but you're probably screwed. It felt like Kevin O'Connell a year ago puppeteered Kirk a lot more. And because of that, his stats don't go up, but his success does. And it feels like we're now not doing that. We're not seeing that as much. And I wonder if it's something that happened between them with Kirk, voicing his dismay about things. So my question is, why did we go from Kirk seeming like a puppet on the strings with Kevin pulling the strings to now you're really not doing as much of that?
Yeah. And by the way, state of Kirk Cousins on that note in 4 key categories: passer rating, 6th in the NFL. Pretty damn good. QBR 12th, Pro Football Focus grade, he's 9th, and expected points added, he's 13th. So, he's like 10th if you sort of taking aggregate of those numbers, which is kind of where he's been with or without Kevin O'Connell. Before we get to just a few key categories here, Judd, let's shout out a couple friends here, starting with BetterHelp. Purple Daily is sponsored by BetterHelp. And so on this show, we provide football therapy for you guys. Well, actual therapy has helped me personally in my life at times through the death of loved ones, other big life and professional events. And sometimes I think there's a stigma, especially with, we see the analytics on the show, largely men who listen to the show. There's a stigma that, it's, I'm just going to sort of swallow it or shove those feelings down. Maybe there's stretches where you feel like your mind is getting in the way of self-progress, but you just ignore it. Well, what you should do, or what's good for you, is to let a therapist come in and help unlock what's holding you back mentally. Therapy gives you a chance to do that. Think about this. There's like athletes we talk about every day on this show, football players. These are the elite players in the world, and they need coaches to help unlock certain parts of their game. So if that sounds interesting to you, make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/Purple Daily today to get 10% off your first month. That's help, BetterHelp, HELP.com/Purple Daily. Also, you're repping the Park Tavern hat there. Park Tavern's a great partner of ours. We had a great watch party a month back. It's a good time out there. That's the home bar of the sports dad himself, right? It's the neighborhood bar of the sports dad.
Absolutely. The official sports bar of Sports Dad, Park Tavern, right in my neck of the woods here in SLP, located off Louisiana Avenue South. It's a place that you can go watch games, enjoy a great beer or two, enjoy fantastic food. And heck, you know what? If you're into bowling, Park Tavern is your bowling headquarters. Absolutely fantastic. And if you want to throw a party, I'm talking a shindig, I'm talking a bash, and I'm not talking a small one, I'm talking a big one, anniversaries, birthdays, whatever it might be, fantasy league drafts. Guess what? Park Tavern also there for you. Just go to parktavern.net, or give Cheryl a call because she will set you up. Park Tavern, they have done this a bunch of times. 952-929-6810, 952-929-6810. Park Tavern, located St. Louis Park, Louisiana Avenue South. Check them out. And again, online, parktavern.net has a one-stop shopping website, all the information you need.
And a thank you and a shout out to our friends at Summit Orthopedics for their partnership with us here across the Score North podcast. If you're dealing with any type of pain, if you're on the injured list, maybe you're questionable for weekend plans or whatever it is, ankles, back, neck, spine, knees, shoulders, whatever it may be. No referrals are needed. They offer same-day appointments. If you're really hurting, they also offer walk-in orthopedic urgent care 7 days a week starting at 8 a.m., 25 locations in the Twin Cities, and you can learn more at summitortho.com. That's summitortho.com. All right, here's the categories. We'll start with this one. It's the best and worst offensive players for the Vikings, according to Pro Football Focus.
Okay.
I'm not even going to make you guess like we do on Tuesdays. I'm just going to give them to you.
I appreciate that.
The three best offensive players, this is just straight up PFF grade on a 0 to 100 scale. Justin Jefferson, Christian Darrisaw, and Josh Oliver.
Oh, the blocking.
He does all the stuff that you don't really see until we get a guy like Boone in to break down the film, and then it's like, oh, look at that block. Yeah,
he's got the fumble, but yeah, no, he probably has done, which again makes it even more difficult to understand why the run game hasn't worked at all.
Yeah, and dude, like if I were to keep
offensive lineman,
and if I keep going on this list, Garrett Bradbury's having the best season of his career so far. Ed Ingram is a step better than last year. Ezra Cleveland's a step better. Brian O'Neill is the same. Like everyone is at minimum top. I think everyone is top 15 at their position, left or right. Like if you bundle everyone in, except for Ingram, who's like a little outside the top 20, and he's like the only weak link in terms of pass protection, but he's better than last year. So it's interesting. And then the three worst offensive players, according to Pro Football Focus: Alexander Mattison, the third worst, CJ Ham, second worst, and KJ Osborne has been the worst graded player.
He's been the worst, huh? Interesting.
Yeah. He's got a bunch of drops. They don't. One thing that stood out, Jordan Addison is like the fourth or fifth worst because of his run blocking. He has a 34 run blocking grade out of 100. He's awful at run blocking.
Right, but he's not dropping the ball, which is a huge problem. But
Yeah.
that does explain. So that might come back and explain part of the run game problem there, because
Yeah.
Ham is expected to be a big part of that. And I just think and it feels like his snaps have been curtailed a bit since opening week, but I just feel like with Ham, if that was really your goal, like if he was going to be that guy, God bless him. He's a nice guy and he's a great story, but I think you needed to upgrade that. Like if you were going to use that, and if you're not, that's fine. A lot of teams right now in today's league do not rely on a fullback. So if that wasn't your plan, and it was just going to be a guy that played special teams and got used once in a while, I think Ham is perfect. But the Madison thing, I just want to know at what point in time are we going to see again a committee approach?
Dude, here's the next category. It doesn't bode well for Madison. Drops are definitely a problem for this team. Now, what I don't want to happen after going through this is for all of the Cousins Crusaders, because this is what happens. If there's like a problem, they make it seem like, oh, well then, because there's a fire in the house, there's no possible way that anything good can happen, right? It's not perfect conditions, but drops are a problem. The Vikings are dropping just under 10% of passes thrown by Kirk Cousins this year. So they're averaging like 2 to 2.5 drops per game, which is the second highest drop rate in the NFL.
Yeah.
Now, there are 14 quarterbacks that sit between a 7 and a 10% drop rate, so it's not unique. The Vikings aren't the only team that's dropping passes. It's just that they have more than, they have it's a 9.7% drop rate, and the other 13 are between like 7% and 9.5%, and then there's one that's higher. So Alex Madison has dropped 22%. Basically, 1 in every 4 passes that's thrown to him, he has dropped this season. He leads the NFL in dropped passes with 5. KJ Osborne and TJ Hockinson each have 4 drops. Only 7 players in the NFL have at least 4 drops. 3 of those 7 are Vikings players.
So the drop, okay. So there's a few things here that are at work in this one too. So if you have a game or maybe 2 games with a bunch of drops or fumbles, that's bad luck.
Yeah.
Okay. But we now have on the Vikings 2023 resume, we now have 6 games. Okay. The amount of drops and turnovers is not bad luck. It's bad play. At some point in time, luck becomes your identity and the Vikings' identity. And part of the reason why they won 13 games a year ago when everyone said, well, it's all luck. Well, okay, yeah, luck helps. But you know what else helps? Good, solid play. And we saw that a lot more a year ago. On the drops, I would be curious to actually see them documented. Madison comes to mind as being pure drops. Yeah. The drop against the Chiefs arguably cost the Vikings that game. And it was awful. He started to run before he caught the ball. There's nothing to do with Kirk. There was nothing to do with anybody. The play was blocked up brilliantly. Yeah. That was awful. Some of the Osborne drops, I'm curious, like, do they ding him for the pass that was slightly behind him?
Yeah.
And if that's a drop, that's also not as Kirk admitted, it's a bad throw too. So some of the Hockinson drops,
blaming Kirk for the drops.
Some of the Hockinson drops have been a twofold problem. He needs to catch the ball, but could some of those throws be improved? Absolutely. Now, I blame TJ more because he's the one that decided not to participate in training camp when this could have been hashed out. Yeah. But I don't feel the need to defend this team. I feel the need to look for what the problem is and assess blame fairly, which I think goes to a lot of sources. But on the Madison drops, the majority of those that I have seen are just purely on him. I will say that.
Dude, it's like, here's a screen pass all set up, ready to go, and the ball is right in your hands. And there's been 2 where it's just, there's not even like footsteps. You can just walk into the end zone or whatever it is. And
yeah, the Chiefs one was, there's no excusing that.
Yeah. Okay, category 3 here. TJ Hockinson has been very underwhelming in some areas. The drops definitely.
Yep.
So that we went over that. He's among the league leaders in drops so far this year.
Yep.
Here's another one though. His contested catch rate. So that's exactly what you think it is. It's sort of a subjective measurement, but it's, hey, you're close quarters and there's maybe a defender kind of draped on you and the quarterback is throwing it to you and trusting that you can make that catch. Certainly not going to bat 1,000 on these.
It needs to be high though for his size and strength.
Yep. So his contested catch rate this season so far is 33%, which is tied for 27th among tight ends this year.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, Cousins has thrown 12 contested footballs to TJ Hockinson. He has 4 catches, which is the most contested throws to any target on the team, by the way. It's 3 more than Jefferson, and it's 6 more than both Addison and Osborne. So I was like, well, that's interesting. I wonder where Hockinson ranked in previous years in contested catch rate, because 27th is awful considering what you're paying him. He needs to catch some of these. Mm-hmm. Well, last year he was 11th in contested catch rate among tight ends, ahead of George Kittle and Travis Kelce. 2 years ago, he was 2nd among tight ends in contested catch rate. So that tells me, wow, with the Lions a couple years ago when you had 2 years in training camp and right, I think you nailed it, dude. Like, this should improve as you go along, but is some of it just like timing? Is some of it not having seen enough of these situations throughout the entire month of August and you're just a month behind where you would be? Like, I think you're right, man.
Well, I think the comeback from some will be, well, he joined the team, for the Washington game last year and they were great. Okay, but his timing was fine. His timing with Kirk probably improved from there, but his timing was good. He was playing. He literally didn't take part in training camp. I'm sorry, stretching and catching some passes from a coach or a quarterback uncontested in non-drills is not taking part in training camp. Yeah. And the other thing too is, and I guess this is sort of in Kirk's defense to this entire thing, think about how anal Kirk is, like how he likes to work on things. Like Kirk is incredibly nuanced.
You say anal, I would say detailed.
Well, no, but I mean,
attentive.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying as a quarterback, he likes to work on things. Like he likes he wants to know as much as certain as possible. And when you got a guy who just joins, hey, I'm back now. I got my contract. So yeah, I think that this was it's not a huge tactical mistake because he got paid. I think this was football wise a big tactical mistake.
Life wise, it was great for him.
Yeah, so I can't criticize him. He got paid, but I do agree with your last point. The one thing that keeps coming to mind, and we saw this a little bit more as the Bears game progressed. I think this will work itself out. Like I don't think this is a 17-game problem. One
more Hockinson number here. 36 catches is tied for the most among tight ends. So he's tied with Travis Kelce and Evan Ingram for the most receptions by a tight end so far this year. But he's 31st among tight ends in yards per catch. He has a career low yards per catch, 8.5. So he's just not getting yards after the catch. Some of it might be maybe he's not being schemed open the way that he has in the past. Right. And then my last category for you is just the lack of fourth quarter magic. So last season, the Vikings led the NFL with 8 fourth quarter comeback wins, and they were first in the NFL in fourth quarter points scoring, in points per fourth quarter.
Right.
So first in those categories. This season, they have 0 fourth quarter comeback wins. They've had some chances too. And they're 20th in fourth quarter scoring. So that magic that they had, hey, it's a close game at the end, or maybe we're trailing. Buffalo, right? Colts, there's all these instances. Let's go, boys. Let's go win a football game. For a bunch of different reasons, and we've actually gone over some of them here today, right? They're just not getting that same. You can't rely on fourth quarter magic to carry you for seasons on end, right? At some point, and you got to stomp someone.
And you don't have to if you don't fumble the ball and catch passes.
Well, yes.
So it wouldn't be, again, I mean, think about the Chiefs game. If Alexander Madison just catches that one ball, and I think he probably scores. Yeah. Think about that game. It's totally different.
Yep. A lot of these games are different. And of course, if there's a score or two that were turnovers, then there is fourth quarter magic. It's a very thin line. So there's that's your state of the offense here. Also presented in part by our friends over at Finch Home Solutions. Judd. That's right. Let me see if I can find
I was going to say, can you find
here we go.
To do the sound. There you go. You know what that sound means? If you have watched PD a lot, you know that sound means only one thing. That means Cody Finch and his team at Finch Home Solutions are arriving at your house right now. Well, not right now, but they could be if you have any.
Standing outside right now.
They're not stalking you. Don't worry about it. If you have any electrical issues in your home, big or small, Finch Home Solutions to the rescue. fast, courteous, efficient. And guess what? They're going to tell you what needs to be done. They're not going to sit there and try and get you to do work that does not need to be done. They are straight shooters, and they are outstanding at what they do. For instance, right now it's getting cold outside. So let's say you're considering that hot tub purchase. You're thinking to yourself, you know what? We need a hot tub. Well, there's a lot of electrical work that goes with that. Finch Home Solutions can take care of all of that. Just give them a call, 612-357-2604, or go to finchhomesolutions.com. Finchhomesolutions.com. They love the two things. They love purple, and they love making sure that your home is safe. So make sure you tell them the boys from Purple Daily sent you.
And hey, we didn't crash the plane. Let's go.
I have nothing to do with it, so I mean, congratulations to you.
You just ate the pretzels and the snacks on this plane, right?
Very good.
We'll see you guys for a bonus episode later today, A Path to 9